It's incredibly likely that this week will be the beginning of the end for either Obamacare or Trumpcare. Cloaked in secrecy with effectively no debate whatsoever, Republican senators are working to push through the AHCA as quickly as possible. They're going to advance it, they're going to vote on it, and you will know effectively nothing about what the Senate version of the AHCA is until the vote actually happens, unless we do something to stop that. And so that is going to be the theme on today's show and throughout this week. Now, I want to give a little bit of credit to Claire McCaskill late last week talking with Orrin Hatch over this secrecy. I think that she could have gone a little bit harder, but she is actually bringing up the issue. So let's play this video and then discuss.
Will we have a hearing on the healthcare proposal?
Will we?
Yes.
I think we've already had one, but.
No, I mean on the proposal that you're planning to bring to the floor of the Senate for a vote. Will there be a hearing?
What do you? Huh?
Democrats have been invited to participate in this process, and we are open to their ideas and suggestions.
Well, I don't know that there's going to be another hearing, but we've invited you to.
Can you say that you're inviting us? And I heard you, Mr. Secretary, just say we'd love your support. For what? We don't even know. We have no idea what's being proposed. There's a group of guys in a back room somewhere that are making these decisions. There were no hearings in the House. I mean, listen, this is hard to take. Well, you couldn't have a more partisan exercise than what you're engaged in right now. We're not even gonna have a hearing on a bill that impacts 1/6 of our economy. We're not gonna have an opportunity to offer a single amendment. It is all being done with an eye to try to get it by with 50 votes and the vice president. I am stunned that that is what Leader McConnell would call regular order, which he sanctimoniously said would be the order of the day when the Republicans took the Senate over. We are now so far from regular order, the new members don't even know what it looks like.
And if you're coming up as an American trying to understand American politics in the past couple of years, I don't think anyone knows what regular order looks like on a wider sense. But yeah, he was fed a line. He asked for someone to tell him what to say there. Now he's not the problem at the end of the day. It's all of them.
He's
it's all
the problem
of them
at
together.
the beginning of the day.
He's the problem at the beginning of the show, certainly, and he is part of the problem. But I love this idea that we already had a hearing. You had a hearing. First of all, I don't remember that hearing, and I don't believe that there was a hearing.
But it wasn't
about
about this bill.
But yeah, but even if they had it, even if he wasn't lying there, I mean, do you guys remember when they were debating Obamacare? From the beginning of the debating to the bill actually being passed, I think 3 Fast and Furious movies came out. That's how long it was, how many hearings there were, how many amendments there were, just constantly trying to get Republicans to sign on to it. Here he's like, well, we already spoke once, why would we do it again? So 20 or 30 million Americans are gonna lose their health insurance. Maybe 30,000 Americans are gonna die unnecessarily every single year. Are we gonna talk twice about this? No. And so that's absurd. Now that's their defense, but we're gonna talk a little bit procedurally how they're trying to advance this more quickly. But we do know that this is not just Orrin Hatch's position, this is the default position of the Republicans in the Senate. They're not going to make this clear until at least after the CBO scores it. 2 Senate GOP aides said this: we aren't stupid, we're still in discussions about what will be in the final product, so it is premature to release any draft absent further member conversations and consensus. Members there being Republicans, since the Democrats don't even know what's in the bill. And one of the reasons they're not stupid, I guess, and don't want this to be discussed is summed up in this poll from Quinnipiac showing the approval rating for the HCA is at 17%, making Donald Trump look like Justin Bieber. That's an old reference, I don't even know if he's that popular anymore. But it's not popular, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things there. First of all, he said we're not stupid because they know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to go the roundabout route with this and get something through without very many people being a part of it. So that's what they're saying. They're not stupid. We're not stupid politically.
Yes,
and that just explains. I mean, implicit in that is that they know exactly what they're doing because they are not stupid and they are going to try and force feed this. The one thing about which to be somewhat encouraged is that there aren't any sort of nationally ambitious or aggressive Republicans on the Senate side who are going to run with this and run as people who think that that by supporting it they need to appeal to Republicans, and by opposing it they wound themselves. Bill Cassidy of Louisiana is one to watch, and a lot of the moderates have been kind of, a little bit dull on this, a little bit saying, hey, I don't know that we should go ahead with this. And now you see them starting to speak a different language about it. Dean Heller of Nevada, you've been to Nevada, Mark. Dean Heller, Dean Heller is somebody who's up for re-election next year in what is a blue state, and he's a Republican. He has a lot to do with what happens with this. So coming out of that, I mean, this isn't a done deal, but it's still so discouraging to see the process go in the direction that it's gone on this, because they're not going through regular order, like you said, John, and they are not telling people what's in this bill.
You talk about GOP, though, attaching themselves to this. I mean, there is not a lot of political capital to be gained by being associated with this bill if you're a member of the GOP. So I'd be surprised if it, it should have some 10-foot pole marks all over it, because
which it did as recently as last week. And right now you start hearing people who are moderates, Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, speaking just kind of, a little bit more carefully. Well, maybe it's a little better than it was.
Yeah. And so there are those people that we don't know for sure if they will support it or not. I mean, it being at 17% and not, I mean, there are policies that could theoretically be at 17% approval that they would still pass, but
like the war in Iraq.
Exactly. But particularly salient when the topic that's so unpopular theoretically will strip your own constituents of their health care and leave their families destitute and their businesses bankrupt. I think that will have an effect, and we're going to return to those people in the middle that might be swayed in just a second. But I want to talk again procedurally. How are they working on this? Last week, McConnell deployed Rule 14, a fast-track procedure that bypasses the committee process and moves the bill directly to the floor. Just as in the House, we're on track to have a vote with no hearings when there were more than 100 for the ACA. So just in case Orrin Hatch is watching, they didn't have just 2, by the way. Knowing the coverage loss will be significant, McConnell plans to vote within only days or possibly even hours of the release of the CBO score. And before and after the CBO will be discredited by the Republicans as much as possible, possibly shut down. I've heard that bandied about as well. And so they're not even going to bother with the whole committee procedure, going through that step. They're going to pass it immediately to the House, or to the floor, I should say. And they're hoping that they get the score, they vote on it, maybe a basketball game is on or something, and they can just slip it through and they don't have to worry anymore. And that could come within the next couple of weeks, theoretically.
Yeah, and they also have the White House behind it too. And so the White House doing all of whatever it is they're doing, trying to get some positive news, trying to get, the president's been between 34 and 38% in approval ratings, not just Quinnipiac, which, by the way, you're from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Quinnipiac is in Hamden, Connecticut. You have to be able to say Quinnipiac better. It's been like 7 years of you saying Quinnipiac.
I was fairly certain that I was saying it correctly.
I don't think you were. But
the only direct experience I have with it, other than polling, is that I played a tennis tournament there once.
Of course, when you were in Bridgeport and they were in Hamden, and you probably said it wrong then too. But the point is that the White House is looking for, and the Republicans want to change that tide because they need to be able to say something's going on that isn't Russia, that isn't Jared Kushner, that isn't the hearings and the special counsel. And so they need this too, and the White House is giving them a lot of leeway.
They need to show that they can do something. Right now, the story is, look, they've got control of everything and they can't get anything done. This may be the wrong, I think, clearly you're right. At the end of it all, they just want to say, hey, look, and we got this passed. We undid that awful Obamacare. I just don't know, once the dust settles, and they're keeping it dusty, so it may not settle for a while, what we're really going to be left with. I mean, that is to say, whether they're going to be left with anything they can be proud of, might be another way to put it.
Yeah. Well, as a country, we certaly won't be left with anything to be proud of.
But also, the things that make them proud, by the way, are not necessarily
that's a good point.
The benchmark.
They'll build talking points around whatever comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not going to go through all the stats again. We've done it dozens of times over the course of the past year. But I mean, there's perhaps, other than maybe climate change related issues or maybe the tax code, I don't know if there's a more consequential thing that the Republicans are going to attempt to do during this first term in terms of the impact on American families' lives, welfare, and their actual wealth as well. I mean, the numbers are stark. If you're talking about the numbers of hundreds of billions of dollars of effective tax giveaways that are gonna go to the richest Americans, the number of Americans who are gonna lose health insurance, the effect is dire. You already know that, so we're not gonna go through it again. But we do wanna give you something you can do with this. And it's a fairly old school political thing, but here I do think that it could have some effect. So if we could bring up this lower third here. It's a very simple thing. So that's the switchboard at the US Capitol where you can you can try to get to at least the office of your senator. And they are going to have an aide who's working in particular on their healthcare policy. And you have got to call in and you've got to make yourself heard. Because as Michael was saying, there are some Republican senators who are rightfully horrified about what effect voting for this might have on their electoral prospects the next time around. Some of them are up in just a year and a half. Those people can theoretically be persuaded. And while it seems ridiculous in this time that they would actually care about people calling into their offices, everything I've read leads me to believe that they do still actually pay attention to that.
Well, look, Capitol Hill is trapped. These guys are back, they're turning the Wayback Machine to 1950. Believe me, the phone ringing off the hook matters to these guys. They don't know of texting.
Yes.
I mean, really, the guys deciding on this are a bunch of old white guys in Washington. So yeah, ring those phones.
Yeah. And we only have 2 old white guys on this panel, so that makes a big difference.
We're not the Young Turks, you're the Young Turks. You power this show. Together, we built something amazing. We've broken stories like the Donna Brazile story the mainstream media wouldn't break. We built the studio, we built this network. It's now #1, all thanks to you guys. Let's come build it even bigger and stronger. TYTnetwork.com/join.